In medicine, ancient also means developed before we understood the causes of disease, before germ theory. It was based on ignorance then, and age makes it no truer. We misguidedly look back to a golden age that never was. Ours is the golden age of safe, tested medicine, effective beyond placebo, in which we've cut infant mortality and conquered diseases, then forgotten they existed. Let's hear it for Western scientific medicine. In the 20th and 21st centuries, we've all but eliminated terrible diseases like polio, completely eradicated smallpox by a worldwide program of vaccination. Antibiotics, well, I wouldn't be here but for antibiotics, and I guess there's a good chance that you wouldn't be either. Blood transfusions, magnificent surgery, all these things are given to us by scientific principles, scientifically trained doctors. All the methods are properly tested and retested. None of that could be said for so-called alternative medicine. The idea that ancient equals years of accumulated wisdom is a fallacy. It's a teasing irony that the moneyed classes in the rich West are indulging superseded Hindu healing magic when, back in India, people are voting with their feet and opting for modern vaccines and antibiotics. Resuscitating Ayurveda today is rather like bringing back bleeding with leeches. In Ayurveda or clairvoyance, homeopathy or astrology, we're confronted by those who deny evidence of the real world and instead bend reality around a dogmatic belief system handed down by tradition. We don't have to follow the herd and buy into trendy, untested health fads. We don't have to be swayed this way and that by media-driven health scares. Instead, we can think independently and be truly open-minded. That means asking questions, being open to real corroborated evidence. Reason has liberated us from superstition and given us centuries of progress. We abandon it at our peril. Scientific medicine came to understand how germs cause disease. We washed our hands, sterilized surgery, and created vaccines, antibiotics, and drugs that work. Today, a war is being fought against reason. Science is treated with suspicion, perhaps born of fear, and medical advance is challenged by the march of irrational belief. A third of us now spend over £1.6 billion a year on superstitious alternative remedies which, as far as the evidence can show, don't work.
Okay. Yep. Good.
If any remedy is tested under controlled scientific conditions and proved to be effective, it will cease to be alternative and will simply become medicine. So-called alternative medicine either hasn't been tested or it has failed its tests. And some alternatives are funded by us taxpayers, even though their unproven claims question the known laws of physics.
Grace, beauty, laughter, the deep knowing of the wise being that you are, and the golden glow that comes from the heart, comes from a golden flower, and use the gold light from the centre of the flower like a sunbeam, and beam it onto those petals and wake them up.
Elisis Livingston is a professional faith healer. She runs the Shambhala retreat in Glastonbury. For £140 a day she treats patients, including those with terminal cancer, with a mix of meditation, spiritual healing, and the playing of recorded chants. She believes she can alter the structure of DNA.
We used to have in Atlantis 12 strands, and they're in the form of 4 triangles facing in each cell.
Is Elisis' theory of DNA from Atlantis any more irrational than the Ayurvedic notion of chakras, 7 spinning energy wheels inside us? They're certainly great money spinners. I want to find out why such superstitious nonsense is mounting a growing challenge to scientific medicine. In the Middle Ages, healers would conjure up evil spirits or magical spells. Now, in the 21st century, it seems they turn to black holes and, above all, quantum physics. But Deepak Chopra, who once qualified as a doctor, has seized upon quantum jargon and applied it to healing. He claims disease can be caused and cured by a shift in consciousness.
If you believe in a rock, you're automatically believing in God.
Chopra has managed to become a one-man alternative health industry. He's worth up to $75,000 per lecture, and in this era of self-absorption, he claims Michael Jackson, Madonna, and Hillary Clinton as followers.
If you feel genuinely attractive, you'll attract other people to you.
Quantum healing is a theory that a shift in consciousness creates a shift in biology. That's it. We try and get into every aspect of a patient's life, their relationships, their hopes, their dreams, and then we combine it with a ritual of deep meditation, massage, and really a lot of spiritual counseling, including the fear of death. We think that many times patients feel healed even though they may die from a disease if they learn to go beyond their personal fear of death. And you can never do that unless you have a patient have a spiritual experience.
Where did the quantum theory come into that?
Oh, it's just a metaphor, just like an electron or a photon is an indivisible unit of information and energy. A thought is an indivisible unit of consciousness.
Oh, so it's a metaphor for a unit. It's nothing to do with quantum theory as in physics.
No, I think quantum theory has a lot of things to say about observer effect. There are a school of physicists who believe that quantum leaps, for example, are examples of discontinuity. And creativity in consciousness is also an example of discontinuity. And that healing may be a biological phenomenon that relies on biological creativity. That at very fundamental levels it may be a discontinuous phenomenon. It's something unpredictable that happens in the proliferation of uncertainty.
So it sounds like a sort of poetic use of the word discontinuity. It's actually confusion, isn't it, to bring in quantum theory other than as a metaphor, but it sounds as though you're both doing it as a metaphor and a little tinge of something like what physicists are talking about as well.
Well, I think there's controversy. The aficionados in the world of quantum physics have somehow hijacked the word for their own use.
Oh, okay. So they've hijacked your word
I
quantum.
think what happens is that there are fundamentalists in science.
That is absolutely wrong. Science's quest is to try to sort out, to tease out those bits that we don't understand.
Science has become so arrogant in its premise that it has all the answers in a mechanistic approach that it has, whilst it has gotten rid of lots of things like polio and malaria and tuberculosis in many parts of the world, we are now seeing the emergence of modern epidemics that are a result of some of the things that have come about through science.
Chopra at least wears his disdain for Western science openly. The rest of us are prone to politely blurring the vital distinction between science and mumbo-jumbo. Now I want to find out why we're all paying tax to fund other people's gullibility. It's the hottest alternative health fad. It boasts an impressively vast and well-stocked medical cabinet. It's endorsed by royalty and the stars, and is doing a booming trade in high street pharmacies. 500 million people worldwide claim to use it. What is it? It's a system for dosing up on a dilute solution of water. Welcome to the bizarre world of homeopathy. Homeopaths claim that the more you dilute an active ingredient in water, the stronger medicine it becomes. Most homeopathic remedies are marked 30C. What does that mean? It means 1 part medicine to 100 to the power of 30 parts water. How much? A drop in a fish tank? But it turns out that even the C isn't big enough. For the really approved homeopathic recipes, in order to get 1 molecule of the active substance, you need to imbibe all the atoms in the solar system. To science, just doesn't make sense. Incredibly, you and I are paying for this unproven industry through our taxes. Despite the National Health Service's net £540 million deficit for 2006, the refurbishment of the Royal Homeopathic Hospital was part funded by the NHS to the tune of £10 million. That's equivalent to 500 nurses' salaries. The homeopathic profession is unregulated by government. You can call yourself a homeopath without any qualification, training, or even insurance. I want to know how someone highly qualified in real medicine can make such a leap of faith.
I agree there is a plausibility problem, and I pinch myself from time to time. I quite regularly pinch myself. Is this really happening? The fact is I couldn't stop what I do now, even if I wanted to. My patients wouldn't let me. They say it helped. So how are things?
Well, very much better since we last saw you. I virtually no pain at all. If I'm aware of the symptoms are going to start again, I start taking it again, and I can feel the improvement, and then I go back to it until I need it again.
Nobody knows what the structure of liquid water is, so there is room, for a phenomenon analogous to, I'm not saying the same, but analogous to the storage of information by a magnetic medium, by a floppy disk or a videotape.
In 2005, the medical journal The Lancet surveyed all the meta-analyses, the analyses of the analyses, and failed to find any reliable effect of homeopathy. Tellingly, for me, in the bigger trials, less prone to chance anomalies, homeopathy was more likely to show zero demonstrable effect. But if homeopathy isn't tested properly or flunks its trials, then why do homeopaths remain popular?
A lot of them owe their success not to the homeopathy, but to the fact they are decent people. They have time, they're compassionate, they look the patient in the eye, they talk to someone for an hour. These are nice people. I would like to recruit these really nice people to practice proper medicine, and then in the end what we've got are proper doctors, empathetic doctors, who will, in addition to the placebo effect of being that kind of physician, they can also add in truly effective drugs.
Their insights fuel tangible progress, from clean water to networked computing, self-evident benefits that we now take for granted. Yet, as science has moved on, it's become more complex and difficult to grasp. It's easier to portray scientists as the people who bring us Frankenstein food, pollute the environment, or conduct sinister experiments on defenseless little animals. So much so that in 1998 the publicizing of one survey of 12 children that wrongly linked MMR vaccine with autism prompted hundreds of thousands of parents to opt their children out of entirely sensible inoculations. A hyped-up insinuation that the government and the medical establishment were conspiring to sacrifice our next generation to autism has left up to a fifth of our children entirely unprotected against rubella, mumps, and measles, a disease with complications such as brain injury and deafness. There have now been epidemics in Kent and Yorkshire, and a first death from measles in 14 years.
Now everybody's more confused, it just muddies the water, it's frightening.
Medical worker in 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, supposing we were Jesus and seeing that lame men got up and walked when you told them to, you'd be rather impressed with yourself, wouldn't you?
Yes.
But I'm sure it was a placebo effect.
Yes, right. Yes.
I still believe scientific medicine offers more effective and more honest treatment. But I accept Nick Humphrey's point that alternative medicine is peculiarly well positioned to dish out placebos. In the 24/7 globalized rat race of the 21st century, people are yearning for time out. Visiting an alternative healer provides an hour for unwinding and contemplation. And if you're lucky, exposure to piped whale music.